All right. So today we are talking with Jason Stone, President and CEO of Frontline Selling. Frontline Selling's mission is to revolutionize the sales development profession and change the way companies define success through the most skilled, passionate, and capable workforce available. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for our audience to get to know you a little bit better, I would like to ask you, the very first question is, tell us about your very first job.
Oh, God, my very first job. Well, I took a roundabout way into sales, and my very first job was working at a golf course. And I tried to play golf for a living for a while, but then when Peter Pan had to grow up, he took a job in sales, and I actually took a job selling Yellow Pages. Was my first job. And I quickly took on, it was right about the time that Yellow Pages was transitioning to online. They kind of embraced the online component. So I worked with yellowpages.com and was selling, advertising. And I sold for about 6 months and then, got promoted into management, and kind of the rest is from there is history.
Wow, very cool. So you were part of a transition, and then because of that transition, I would assume that you had probably found skills that actually got you promoted to a bigger position. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I outperformed most of the people in the office that have been doing it for a while. So I don't know that it was anything in particular I did other than just kind of honestly assess what people needed and what was available, and yeah, it did pretty well. And then it translated into leading a national team for agency side sales, which was a great experience. So
wow, spoken like a true salesman. Well, so Jason, you and I have been talking a little bit about organization cultures for a while now, and so I wanted to get your views. About your organization, what are the core values that drive your company's culture, and how are they reflected in everyday operations?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, we've kind of switched up and tried a couple of different things in the sense of getting to core values that really make sense for us and what we want to try to accomplish. And one of the first ones is we want to improve everything we touch. So in order to do that, you really got to make sure everybody is on board and everybody has the ability and the trust to be able to speak up. Because one thing I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not good at doing everybody's job, and I don't do their job. So we have to really listen to what people are experiencing and in front of our clients, in front of prospects of our clients, to make sure that we're doing the right things the right way. And so that's first and foremost. The second thing we want to do is we've always wanted to just lead with humility and grace, meaning that we're not always going to be right. We want to make sure that we're able to accurately assess what we're doing. And when we make a mistake, we've got to admit it, because you can't fix it unless you admit it. You can't fix it unless it's out there. So we want to make sure our folks are capable, and that we lead them in the right way to make sure that they're able to properly assess what's happening. And it's kind of the philosophy of speak up now or forever hold your peace type thing, because we can't fix it if we don't know about it. And that goes internally and externally. So for clients and for our employees. So we make sure that, everybody is graceful and humble about how they've approached whatever their job function is. And then, professionalism with distinction. We want to make sure that we're professional in everything that we do. Not taking ourselves too seriously, but we want to make sure that we're representing our clients with professional nature. We're representing ourselves internally, professionally. One of the things that I've worked hard on is I try never to say that people work for me. It's people I work with. And that's part of that attitude and that culture. It's like everybody works with everybody. So I don't look at as employees as working for me, and I try to get that across the board in our leadership team and in our SDR function that we employ. So I want to make sure that is first and foremost, that we're professionally delivering any message that we deliver.
Wow.
And then, yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Go ahead, please. Yes.
And then I wouldn't say these were stack ranked. These are just how, I go through them. But so last but certainly not least, customer obsession is one that we have really tried to instill in our employees, is that we have to be obsessed with our customers' outcomes. We have to be obsessed with their success. And sometimes their success might be to go a different route. And that goes back to the humility and grace piece, because we have to be humble enough to say that this isn't a good fit. We're not good at this particular job, engagement, whatever it may be. So, we don't force the subject on our customers. If we're not doing a good job, we come up with strategies on how to do a better job, or what we believe will be a better job. But we also have options to say, let's part this as professionals. Let's part this in a way that, everybody's happy. So it's, we really are, and from the top down, we're obsessed with every customer's success, whether it's in, a single engagement, a long-term engagement, whether it's training, whether it's helping recruit or fractionally manage. We want to make sure that we have their best interest in mind.
Yeah, you got to love your customer along with your employees. And it seems like you are handling both of them, and you have a well-balanced equation, so to speak, about loving your people and loving your customers. I really like the fact that you mentioned listening, and there's almost like a deliberate action towards, and the word deliberate I've been reading this book, Turn the Ship Around, and there's an aspect about it of being deliberate about doing something. So you're listening, you're actively listening, you're humble enough to understand that if you you're not in the right path, you're able to change. And then, of course, deliberate about even talking about making sure everyone's heard. And I really love the fact that you guys want to do collaboration. You've got the right keys. I think I would say that in terms of your organization culture. All right, cool. So let me ask you, can you share a quick example of a recent culture initiative and its impact in your organization?
Yeah, well, all four of those are relatively new for us. We had some core principles we operated on for a very long time underneath the old ownership. And so we've if you look at those core principles that I just stated, those are all relatively new for us, and they're challenging because there can always be a certain amount of fluff and core principles. And if you don't act from them on the top down, it doesn't matter what you say. So our biggest initiative, our biggest challenge has been to establish that trust, right? To make sure that regardless of what we're asking, that the trust there is that we bring it to light, we assess it and address it, or don't. And we always give a reason why we have addressed one and not the other. So meaning, one of the things that we do, I think I mentioned this to you when we talked previously, was we are religiously send out employee surveys. And we ask questions that, if you think about just building a story, they build every time we send out the survey on the previous questions and some of the answers. And I would tell you, we've been doing it about a year. And the first time you got the survey back, it was like, wow, some of the initiatives we have, they don't seem to be important to the core people in the company. So how do we transition that? So we went through and we started into what we saw as issues that we needed to solve for their well-being, and we addressed those. And the ones we couldn't address, we told them why we couldn't address it. Not that we would never address it, just it couldn't be prioritized right now. Whether it was budgetary constraints, whether it was timing, whether it was contractual with another vendor, whatever it was, we always addressed it. And now you fast forward a year, our last survey just came back about 2 weeks ago. And to say that we're looking around the corners would be, I think, a little prophetic, but we are everything that they've mentioned, we're working on. So we're starting to get in sync with what we believe the employees need and what they want. And so we're starting to think like they do. And I believe that's establishing that trust. So everybody's starting to embrace, the things that we're wanting to do. So I think that the biggest thing, for all new initiatives to me is just establishing trust that this is a good direction to go. And here's why. And we're proving it. So, and we're getting more honest responses. We're getting a lot of really positive feedback where before it was just, as you might imagine, it was just, one-offs and,
Yes.
2 or 3 word sentences, but now people are engaging and they're leaving deeper thoughts and things like that for us to think about. So, I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but
you actually did. Yeah, you actually did. And in fact, that's a very good example, or rather the symptom of the trust that has been built by you and the leadership by leading through example. So you're doing that, you're being transparent, and you're trying to build that trust with your team. That is just exactly how it should be. That's great. All right. So maybe I think it's maybe in the similar line, or I think we've talked pretty much about it. I was going to ask you, what is your one major challenge that you faced regarding your organization culture and how you overcame it? But I think you pretty much answered that through your start of your journey of the 1 year back or 1.5 years back, when you started listening to your people to see whether the core values are making sense to them or not. And if not, how do we make changes, or how do we go about it so that it's aligned with everybody, not just the top leadership? And it's not just, how do you say, basically what you guys did was you bridged the gap between espoused values and what is the basic assumptions that are pre-existing in your organization.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I believe we've done a good job of that. But I think a part of the issue you get to in any organization is you get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you lose sight of, new initiatives, things that can happen. You lose trust because comfortability, change doesn't happen, right? Advancement doesn't happen. Listening becomes fewer and farther between. So that the biggest challenge that we have now, to answer, kind of go a little bit deeper on the question just asked, that piggybacks on the first one, is that it's complacency. We got to make sure that we're not complacent. And it goes back to, one of the other core principles, which is improving everything we touch. And that's, like I always say, there's a difference between perfect and perfect. We're not ever going to be perfect, right? Perfect is batting 1,000 and, throwing all strikeouts. That doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen often. And so we have to make sure that we're always improving on every step of our process, whether it's onboarding a client, whether it's exiting a client, whether it's onboarding an employee, exiting an employee. A perfect example is we just started an initiative that we want our folks to grow. Well, we want them to grow with us, but we know that that's not always going to happen. So we're starting an initiative now that we're putting in a coaching program that we're going to coach you to your next job, whether it's internal, external. We're going to write recommendations for you. We're going to do mock interviews with you. We're going to look at job descriptions based on what we think your strengths and weaknesses are, and we're going to help you find the right role, whether it's with us or not. And what that does is 2 things. It builds the trust tree even deeper. But the second thing it does is it allows us as an organization to be prepared. We just had a guy exit our company, got a promotion. He came to us. He was a failed SDR. We trained him. We coached him. We maintained connection with him. And he was one of the best SDRs we ever had. So sure, it hurts to lose him. But it's a great success story that this guy's now being promoted. He's going to a company where he's going to be an AE. He's going to be working with clients, selling. And we helped him get there. And he acknowledged it. And we of course celebrated him. We didn't, there was no ill feelings. We're actually doing a case study on him to be able to present it to potential employees.
Amazing. That is great. There are so many things I can talk to you about. The very first thing that I would say is the last part that you said, you're creating a case study, the story. Those are your cultural artifacts that you're building upon. So that is amazing. The fact that you're promoting, or rather growing your people, there are two things that happen on that. And not just for the fact that, first of all, you're increasing their intrinsic motivation in the company, and that actually will get more benefit to the organization, to the customers, and to the people in the organization itself. The second thing is, when you have such an open mind to let people decide, saying, look, we can help you grow, and by some point of time you might not find that frontline selling is the place where you can grow. You might find somewhere else to grow. Guess what? When they grow outside and maybe they come back, they bring those fresh perspectives that will allow frontline selling to grow. So I cannot stop saying beautiful again and again. Amazing.
Yeah, we're proud of it. So I think it's going to be a real game changer for, recruitment. We also think it'll be a game changer for referrals and economic growth for the company, because
Absolutely.
Celebrating that kind of growth and that kind of, trust and transparency, I think, is a big thing.
It is. It is, absolutely. So I think maybe this might lead to a very good into the next question. What is one trend you see shaping the future of organizational cultures?
Well, I think the big thing is what I've seen across the board. This doesn't make it indicative of every organization, but we talk to a lot of people, in our prospecting. We talk to a lot of people in our sales process. And one of the things that is shaping, and I think it's done in some instances haphazardly, some ways it's done with great consideration, but AI is something that is shaping the culture of organizations. And some of it's positive. We've embraced AI. We're still a very human-centric outreach organization. We believe in the strength of human-to-human outreach. We believe in the intelligence from human outreach. We believe in the relationships from human-to-human outreach. But we do know that there's got to be a component of AI, and that component is, how do we make our SDRs' lives easier? How do we make our lives easier, right? How do we give them more time to do what they do really well, which is talk to people? And so we've embraced it, and it has been a tremendous hit. But the fear was there, and I'll call it the Heisman, right? The stiff arm to the advancement was, you're just trying to replace us. You're just trying to get more work out of us and less value. And, we've overcome that obstacle. The belief now is that we're embracing, technology and AI to really make their jobs easier and to allow them to accomplish more, because they get incentivized on how many meetings they book. They get incentivized on outreach, and to be able to give them the apparatus to do that in a faster manner and a more efficient manner, it means more money in their pocket. So they're excited about it. And so we have embraced AI so that our margins go up. We've embraced AI so that their ability to earn has gone up. And so when I say that's a challenge, I think AI is a big challenge. You read about companies. I mean, I just read that, can't remember the company. I'll have to look back and see who it was, but they just laid off 1,500 people because they were investing in AI. What does that tell the remaining, 3,000 employees?
That's just bad.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big challenge, how you utilize it, how you invest in it, and what it means to everybody else. And it can't be done, again, in a vacuum. I think everything needs to be discussed about. And again, I get it. We're not a 3,000 person employer, right? So it's harder in an organization that size, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's how you communicate, right? And since the AI started and everyone started talking about the fears about AI, I've always thought about it in any which ways, even if you talk about digital transformation, which AI is part of, right? The fact that it's just a culture transformation, digital tools are just tools. They're augmentation of human ingenuity, the creativeness that we bring to the table. So, and yes, to use tools to give us more time to do what we want to do, what we want to achieve. That's the communication. That's how we'll win our folks from not having the fear. So it looks like you guys are doing a great job about it. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So I think you may have spoken a little bit in terms of already, but maybe you can just, maybe you might have some other thoughts, but what is one piece of advice you'd give leaders about fostering a positive organizational culture?
You know, other than it's essential, it's, this day and age, you go on LinkedIn and LinkedIn is a microcosm of the economic world, in my opinion, right? There's not a lot of positive talk about companies. There's not a lot of positive talk about decision making. And I think that's, again, because it's done in a vacuum. It's done with, the margins in mind. It's done with, a lot of different pieces in mind other than the people. You could sit there and another great platform to go to. I don't know if you've ever been to Bravado, but it's a massive sales site. A lot of sales professionals on it, asking other sales professionals questions. And there's not a lot of positive talk about the organizations. It's all about how the organization is trying to pull one over on them. And your people are your biggest asset, but they're also your biggest liability. And if you don't maintain a balance between rewarding them for advancements and using them to make advancements, I think you've missed a huge opportunity. Because one thing I can tell you, our margins, this was not the intent. Our margins are better now than they've ever been because we've got people wanting to do the work. We've got people doing better work. We've got people invested.
Yes.
I read a great book called the Founder's Mentality, and it gives you various examples of how massive businesses have failed because they skyrocketed to the upper echelon of the organizational world, and they failed in the long run because they failed to continue to innovate. They failed to continue to lean on their people. They hired people to do duplicate jobs. I mean, there's all these different things and examples that they provide. But the reality of it is, if you can get everybody bought in, that they have ownership in this. This is their world too. I think you can see a lot of advancement, and I think you see improvement. It's I've never been a big believer in the sales stat that 80% of your people, or sorry, 20% of your people produce 80% of the revenue. And the question I've always had is not that it's not true. The question I've always had is why.
Yeah.
Right. Why? Because you don't invest in the other 80% of the people. You just let them sit there and whatever. You have to be able to advance your people. You got to be able to support them, increase their ability, because what companies don't see is, I shouldn't say all companies, what some companies don't see is that, it's a lot easier to get a C player to a B player than it is to hire an A player. Right. And
it's amazing.
And the difference between a C and a B player is not a 50% leap, right? It's getting them 15 to 20% better. And instead of, cherry pick, I've seen it happen, cherry picking accounts and giving it to your top reps, doing all the things that, are just, it doesn't motivate the lower echelon of your sales team. And that's just sales, but it happens all over the place. Right. So I think that's a big challenge.
Fantastic. I mean, I keep thinking about so many things when you talk about it. People are the true source of value. I love the fact that you said they are the best asset as well as the best liability. If you do not grow the liability to become a better player, you are going to suffer. And that's been the challenge that many companies have faced. It's almost like I read a lot of Hindu scriptures as well, and they talk about will is your best enemy and your best friend. If you bend the will towards you or towards your benefit, you're going to gain a lot. So that is amazing. All right. So
yeah. I read a quote the other day that you would appreciate. It said, hard work will outwork talent that doesn't want to work every day.
Absolutely.
So if you get your people doing hard work and you support them in doing that hard work, everybody raises. It's it's a rising tide floats all boats scenario.
Yeah, to grow our people. So
yep.
A little bit more to get to know you, Jason. So a little bit of a rapid fire questions. What book do you recommend the most?
Oh gosh. Oh, it's going to be recency bias. So I just finished reading The Visionary Leader, which I think is a really good book. And that I read A Diary of a CEO too, which is a really good book as well. So there's just so many good books out there. Just depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, those two, again, just recency bias because I've just finished them.
I love the word, this phrase that you said, recency bias. I keep thinking about it this way as well. I may have even told you about this book that I read, the Organization, Cultures, and Leadership. And prior to that, I was always thinking about, Switch is a great book. But then I just recently read that book, Organization, Cultures by Edgar H. Schein. Fantastic book. All right.
I haven't read it yet. It's on my list.
Excellent. Yeah, you will love it. What is the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Uh, I tried stand-up comedy one time. Probably would be probably the weirdest thing.
It's awesome. Have you tried that in your some of your meetings or something, or off like all hands call?
I'm a little bit of I don't prepare a lot because I think it screws me up more. I prepared, framework, but I kind of go off the cuff a little bit, and a lot of it's a little improv. But yeah, I get a little silly on our calls.
Awesome. Good to know. One last question. How can our listeners connect with you?
Oh, well, you can find us at frontlineselling.com, or, anybody can feel free to email me at jstone@frontlineselling.com, or look me up on LinkedIn and have a book a meeting with me. And, whether you do business or not, I enjoy having conversations, as you could probably tell. So I don't think I've never had a bad conversation regardless of the outcome.
I will totally attest to that. That's how actually we got started talking, and that was great. So there you have it, folks. This was Jason Stone from Frontline Selling. I appreciate and I am honored to have you on my podcast. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're kind. You're kind. Thank you.
Thank you.